It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belgast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again, time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 219. Tonight I'm joined by Ashgar.
Hello.
Grace.
Hello.
Kodra.
Hi.
Tam.
Hello.
And Thalen.
Hello.
Kodra is famous.
What?
Super famous.
Kodra is totally super famous now.
I was in a vlog where I introduced myself to members of Loading Ready Run, and that does not make you famous.
It
That
totally
makes you a background
famous.
character.
Because, like a major plot point of that vlog was them trying to get your beer so they could have it later. So, yeah, no, you're totally famous. You are an enabling character.
You did have a speaking part.
I did have a speaking part. It was in
I think
background.
that means you're eligible for a SAG card.
You totally are.
If Kodra with his 300-ish followers is famous, what does that make you, Bell, with your almost 2,000?
I'm a nobody. I've tried to explain. Disney proclaimed that Bell being famous is part of the Legends universe, and now Kodra is the new famous. I mean, it's part of the canon now.
You'll always be our favorite media personality, Bell.
Yes. No. But anyway. So last week we didn't record a show, and instead Grace and I streamed some stuff. And the reason being is literally half of our show was at Pax West, and yeah, I think it ended up coming down to just Grace and I, and that didn't seem like a really great podcast episode.
But we did have fun, and you can go and watch that stream if you really want to, and watch us do silly things.
But yeah, so we're all back this week, and this is pretty much going to be the Pax West 2018 show. So, someone that was actually there, how was the show?
It was, I don't know, kind of quiet in a lot of ways.
That was kind of my takeaway too.
It was weird because I felt like there was Nintendo who was there to play, who is always there to show up and have ridiculously long lines. But I wasn't sure what was really the draw. I guess Artifact was a pretty big draw, but the fact that Artifact is a big draw for a convention kind of tells you a lot about that convention.
Okay, so as I always do post PAXs, I look on eBay to see whatever the hell they were giving away that's now the new hotness. And those stupid Artifact keys that they were giving away are going for $70.
Yeah. So
apparently people really want to play a Valve-made card game.
Yeah, it looks very neat. A Valve-made card MOBA.
I don't even know what to think of it, honestly. Did you get to play any of it?
No.
Okay.
No,
So the show is really interesting. Unlike Kodra and Ash, I go to read the crowd and chat with people more than look at games. So I don't actually look too closely or play very many games, but I do watch the crowds. And Artifact was one of 3-ish really notable big single game booths. The other one being Dauntless and the Ubisoft booth.
MapleStory booth was also quite large and had a large crowd the whole time.
That's true. MapleStory, yeah, I don't know what was going on with MapleStory, but it was also one of those crammed off in the corner, which admittedly Artifact also was.
I mean, yes, it was on the opposite side of the room from Artifact.
Yeah. But I noticed that there were, other than the usual suspects like Nintendo, there weren't that many big lines.
I mean, this is sounding a lot like a PAX West or a PAX South.
I mean, the one that really struck me and was the moment where I was like, wow, this show is smaller than I thought, was Friday or Saturday afternoon, the crowded days of the con. We wandered by the Dauntless booth and they had a third of their stations open.
That may be a bad example.
I mean, sure, but that Dauntless was easily one of the bigger booths there.
Yes, but they're having a popularity issue right now.
Yeah.
I mean, Monster Hunter came out on PC.
Yep, that
And-
exactly.
Yep.
They haven't actually officially launched yet. So, yeah, I mean, you missed your window. Welcome to the same territory that Gigantic was in for years. I mean, Dauntless isn't a bad game, but it's also not Monster Hunter.
Neither was Gigantic.
Yes, but Gigantic had a window where if they could have pulled stuff together and launched well ahead of the arena shooter thing that happened, that was ushered in by a whole slew of similar titles, it maybe would have found a market.
Dauntless, when announced, seemed like a very good idea. Hey, here's a Monster Hunter-like game on the PC. Never mind that there already are several of those, but this one looked like it had promise.
Yeah.
But yeah, then Capcom announced World and their window went away. But that aside, there were definitely some long lines to be had at the show for some specific things. I know this because I spent Sunday and Monday trying to get into some of these specific things.
There definitely were. I was surprised at what they were. 100% honestly, like I did not expect some of the long lines to be where they were in the show. But I'll let you
Starlink turned out to be surprisingly popular on the floor. There were 2 places to play it: Ubisoft's giant booth or Nintendo's giant booth.
It's probably significantly easier to get into Ubisoft's booth.
Incorrect.
Really?
Huh.
That shocks me. Like, usually getting anywhere near a Nintendo booth is nigh impossible.
Oh, they were both impossible. I didn't manage to make either one, but I tried Ubisoft and that did not work. The Ubisoft had a pre-registration system. You could show up at the start of the day and they'd basically fill out their demo slots for the entire rest of the day. And Starlink was the first game to fill up every day.
Wow.
Followed by, I want to say, Division 2.
Really?
Whereas Nintendo just had a big giant line that you couldn't stand in because, fire code is a thing. But yeah, that game, Ubisoft was also showing off demos of that game on the floor, like had a person come by every hour and like basically play the demo for a group of people on the floor. So I got to see it, but I didn't get to play it.
I didn't even get a chance to see it.
That releases really soon, doesn't it?
It releases some point next month. I don't exactly remember when. You can buy some version of it that doesn't come with an R-Wing, but I feel like that's a mistake.
That's the wrong choice.
yeah, I mean, I don't know.
So I guess the question is does the R-Wing version play with the other version?
It's not an online game, but like I'd imagine you probably can't use the R-Wing in the other versions, but you can use the ships that comes with the other versions in the Switch version. So I have no idea if they're going to sell it separately or if it's just going to have to be a thing you buy digitally.
I guess the only question I have about that is, like, where are people going to buy the stuff for this? Because it feels like both Target and Walmart, for example, have checked out hard on the whole toys as a game thing.
I mean, so did Activision and Disney. There's no Skylanders this year. There's no Disney Infinity this year.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, like, Walmart and Target don't even have a space for amiibos anymore.
Yeah, I was noticing that as well. Best Buy still has a lot of space for amiibos, so I'm not sure. Some people will probably, I mean,
there's no Toys R Us, so...
I was going to say that, yeah. I'm not sure where they're going to find a place to sell these things to you. They run an online store, so maybe they'll just do that.
I mean, if it goes over well, I'm sure Walmart will start selling it because they like money. But I'm just saying, like, that was the only thing that I thought of as I started seeing that product ramping up is, like, a couple of the natural fits for it just don't exist, and they're not a market for it anymore.
I don't know. That one will be interesting to see.
Yep.
You know another game that had a kind of surprisingly, kind of frustratingly long line? Untitled Goose Game.
Easily my game of show.
So tell us about Untitled Goose Game.
The game kind of explains itself. You're in a village, quiet village, and you're a goose. And your goal is to be an asshole. So a goose.
So this is like that game where you're a cat running around knocking things off of stuff, but as a goose?
Yeah, although I don't
also
know
much more game.
Yeah, much more game. Like, you actually have objectives, like steal the keys from the farmer and throw them into the lake.
Well,
so you're a goose.
Yeah, they're slightly more... My favorite is that they're slightly more abstract than that. It's not like... It's just get the farmer wet. Send the rake for a swim. Have a picnic.
I saw one in the trailer which was do the laundry, and it's the goose having like thrown all of the laundry into a lake and dropping a bar of soap in.
Yeah.
And seems efficient.
This game is absolutely delightful because it's like you can play it as a stealth game where you like sneak around the bushes and steal stuff as the goose and hide it from people. And when they notice it's gone, they go looking for it, but they can't find it because you hid it. Or you could be like crazy aggro goose and just honk and chase people around, and they freak out because they don't know what to do and they think a goose is attacking them.
I mean, geese are pretty horrible.
Yeah.
Yes.
They really are. Like, my earliest memory of a goose was, like, my best friend lived next door to my grandparents, and we were little, like, we were tiny, and she got the goose riled up and ran way faster than I did, and it latched onto me and just started biting.
God, geese are terrible. And there's
They are.
I feel like a huge number of people have this unvoiced primal fear of geese, like entirely deserved.
Even if you don't, one of those things starts hissing at you. It's terrifying.
Yeah, but it's one of those, I don't know, it's one of those primal fears that feels silly because you're like, it's just a big duck thing. But then like, no, actually that's terrifying.
They're vicious as hell.
Yeah, they're super mean. And so there's this weird whimsy, but it's not so whimsical that you can't perfectly imagine it.
Like, our town is basically run by geese. we have these, they call them lakes, but they're not actually lakes. They're just like ponds, but
yeah.
And there's geese in all of them, and they just roam the town. Like, so you'd be driving along, and then there's this flock of geese walking slowly across the road, and everyone stopped to let them finish their shit, and it's nonsense. Like, it's the worst thing ever. Like, I've seen them take over parking lots, I've seen them take over, like, parks, I've seen them take over all sorts of stuff, and everybody just kind of lets it go because, you know, they're geese.
Yeah, so you can't do anything about them because
Right.
like what are you gonna do? Like hit some waterfowl with a rake or something? Then you look like a jerk.
They are apparently
Also, they don't
terrified of
care.
owls. Like, I am not joking. They are apparently terrified of owls.
Oh.
Because
know.
we have a fake owl in our backyard because they used to come to my pool and poop in it. And that's how we stopped it, is by putting an owl up. They're also afraid of alligators, and other people have put, like, literally a blow-up alligator, like a float, and it works.
I mean, that's a reasonable fear when you're a waterfowl in particular.
That is true. So,
I don't even know if you
yeah.
need to be a waterfowl.
That's why I said in particular.
So one town that I used to live in back in like the height of like the anthrax postal scare period of time, we had someone who called the police freaking out because they woke up one morning and their lawn was covered with a mysterious like white substance. Like their whole lawn was coated with it, and they knew for sure it was anthrax and someone was trying to kill them. But no, we just live on, a
I mean, the
Canadian
geese were
goose.
trying to kill him.
Right, like we live on a Canadian goose like migratory pathway, and yeah, it was just goose shit.
Just came through during the night.
Yep. And like this is a thing that happens every year, but people scared. So that's my goose story. Goose terrorists.
The only thing worse than geese is swans, because they're like geese with attitudes.
I mean,
Fancy
geese have
geese.
plenty of attitude already.
Yeah, swans are snooty about it.
Swans are way, way worse. I don't know, like when I was a kid, I think I may have been some sort of goose whisperer because like I could get them to eat out of my hand, but swans are always assholes. Like
Swans will break your arm.
Yeah, I've never met like a chill swan.
I mean, on the other side, though, ducks are awesome.
Yeah, ducks are great.
We have like this mating pair of ducks that are like in our neighborhood, and they'll wander around, and like they're the cutest things ever. And they're totally chill. They don't mess with you, anything like that. But then the geese are just horrible. So yeah, you play as asshole geese.
I'm
Yep.
really looking forward to this game.
This game looks amazing. This game is
It does sound pretty
my
entertaining.
favorite my favorite game of the show.
It would be hilarious if it were by the same people as Duck Game.
The studio is Home, which I've never heard of.
Is this like Boat?
Oh,
It's like they predicted the latest XKCD.
I don't know, but yeah, their name is Home. Another game I really liked playing a lot, another indie game, was Never Give Up. And this game is a speedrun-y game that I really enjoy the movement of.
If this sounds familiar, it's based on a series of Flash games called, Give Up.
so what makes it cool?
I think what makes it cool is that... So, maybe this is just me finally finding a game like Meat Boy that I enjoy, but it's the quick restart. The movement is really fluid. Like, the movement is not unintuitive, which is what I always had frustrations with Meat Boy of. Like, Meat Boy is all about figuring out how the physics engine works and then doing all sorts of crazy long jumps after you've basically set up your path for that. This is a little bit less like that, a little bit more just standard jumps will do. And one of the cool things they did at the show was they had a speedrun competition of it, and if you could get close to the time, the best time at the convention, you could win a prize. And I never got close, but I did get an opportunity to play it enough to get like decent speedruns in on it, and it was a lot of fun. It's a game I will probably end up trying to do speedruns of, because it was fun to do.
I found movement in that game to be kind of like N++, except for with the double jump.
Oh, does N++ not have double jump?
It does not. It also has a much better wall jump, but it was similar enough.
Okay, the game I want to know about is Risk of Rain 2.
Me too, because that looked awesome.
Apparently that got announced last year, but I didn't know about it. So when it just showed up in the mega booth, I was surprised and shocked.
Did you get to play it?
I did get to play it on Monday. That was one of the most crowded indie booths at the show.
Yeah, normally
Yep.
the indie booths are pretty crowded. Like, I have to steel myself to get ready to go into the indie booth because it is packed to the gills. It's only like, I don't know, a couple, like 200 square feet or something. No, it's more than that.
It's a lot more than that.
But it's the entire thing is the size of one really large booth, but it can take you like an hour to get in and out of it. Because like just there's just so many people in there and you can't move quick. So like if you go into the indie mega booth, you're committing.
So Risk of Rain 2 was in the back corner of this booth, and thanks to their demo structure, people took variable amounts of time at this thing, and they only had like 2.5 stations, so it took quite some time for people to get into and out of this booth, unless they were like me and they died like in the first 3 minutes. But hey, it's like Risk of Rain, right?
That sounds just like Risk of Rain.
Yep.
So yeah, Risk of Rain 2 is in 3D, but they included some of the characters from the original in the demo. I talked to them. They said they're going over trying to figure out which ones actually still work in 3D, to figure out which ones they want to keep.
There were a lot of the monster types that I noticed in some of the demo footage that I saw online.
Yeah, all the monster types I saw, except for the first boss I encountered, were from the previous game. The first boss was new. But I saw other people encounter the magma worm as their first boss, so...
Oh, so it's variable as well.
Mm-hmm.
It looked good.
But it is a very faithful 3D recreation of how Risk of Rain plays.
It also
meant that I wasn't quite used to it, and I got overwhelmed and died in like 3 minutes in. But hey, it's not entirely unexpected.
I'm just hoping it has as much fun co-op-wise as Risk of Rain does, so...
Hey, they figured out how to use the Steam API, so you don't have to enter a IP address.
Thank God.
Oh, that's good.
Plus.
Basically, whenever it comes out, Ash, you and I are going to play, and it'll be great.
I'm actually very excited about this one because I wanted to like the original, but I just didn't. But this one, I like the 3D. I like 3D action games.
Well, the first one has so many interesting things that you could get as items. So, like, I am totally amped to see what the drones feel like in 3D.
This one definitely had drones. It also had I got the gasoline, which in the first game creates a fire around things when you kill them. In this game, it creates a sort of radial explosion that sets things on fire, so that it still works in 3D with roughly the same effect. I have not seen a game make quite an elegant 2D to 3D conversion like that one has.
Well, that's exciting.
Not since
shocking.
Super Mario 64, anyway.
Like, it was shocking how much it still felt like Risk of Rain when I was looking through the footage. We have a ton of titles on this list.
Yep. There were a lot of games at the show.
Okay, what the hell is Get in the Car Loser?
So
That looks pretty amazing.
So Get in the Car Loser is the newest game by Christine Love. And
Okay.
I have always wanted to play a Christine Love game, but like anytime I try, I am not necessarily the right demographic for visual novel style games.
You're not the right audience for Lady Killer in a Bind?
Maybe, I don't know. But this game is it is Final Fantasy 15 story-wise, but instead of 4 dudes on a road trip, it's a bunch of queer folk on a road trip having a blast.
I didn't know the name of that game, but I saw like some images from it. It looked amazing.
It looks super great.
And I got to play around with I got to play through the entire demo, and the combat seems actually pretty fun. Like, it's a very different take on your JRPG style combat, but I actually like it. And I can see where you can get some depth in it.
I mean, I like Christine Love games just generally, and Christine Love does FF15. It sounds great to me, just full stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what Get in the Car Loser is. You are the loser who is going on a quest to stop the machine devil cult edgelords.
Okay, where's Necrosphere?
So, what if you had a puzzle platformer with just 2 buttons? The 2 buttons in this case being left and right.
Oh, okay. That was not the 2 buttons I expected.
You're expecting one of those and jump?
I was expecting movement keys and jump. Yeah.
Nuh-uh. Just left and right. So the trick is that there's a whole bunch of environmental things that will like cause you to bounce, and a whole bunch of like movers in the level, and so you're still flying through the air like you would in a platformer. It's just you don't have any control over jump. At least in the beginning part of the game. I actually purchased this game because I was having such fun with the beginner part of the game. But then they start cheating a little bit. You still only have 2 buttons, but it becomes insufficient. So you pick up an item that gives you like a dash. And if you double tap a direction, you'll dash in that direction, even in air. And then later on in the game, you get a jetpack, where if you hold both keys down, you start to use your jetpack. And this is all very cute, but those need their own buttons, is what I have ultimately discovered. And I'm pretty sure there is a unreleased version of the game that has like a more buttons mode that I'm waiting for them to release. Because I think if I didn't have to like double tap and then immediately go into jetpack and then double tap again, like my hand hurts after some of the puzzles in this game later on.
Yeah, that doesn't sound very user friendly.
But the game's really fun, and it's really great like for the early parts, and then I think if they release the more buttons mode, it's actually a great game. This was one that Ash like gave me a card and was like, you need to go check this game out.
Okay, what is Exception?
Exception's another game that Ash gave me a card and told me I needed to check out.
Was I wrong?
You were not. So Exception is a sort of like speed runny platformer where you're jumping through a whole bunch of different obstacles and slashing at things, and periodically you'll hit an object that causes the world to like shift around in various ways.
This game also has an incredibly cool neon aesthetic. It's very 80s, very Tron.
Yeah, that was one of the indie mini booths, and yeah, I really liked it. It was it's got a number of different alternate paths that you can go through the levels with, and you earn points for discovering alternate paths. Apparently, JJ and I independently discovered 2 different alternate paths during our playthroughs. So it seems like they might be pretty packed into those levels, which is fun.
But you appear to be some sort of ninja fighting robots in a sort of speedrunner-esque platformer, but much less punishing than like what that normally means.
Yeah.
Well, I will point out that in the demo you had infinite health.
It's true.
So I don't know how much less punishing it'll be with the infinite health taken off. It was also, I mean, this was interesting. The developer was really interested in feedback. Like, I don't know if I just had never noticed, but he was like taking notes over everything everyone was doing, which I thought was neat.
The structure of the mini booth kind of seemed to encourage that sort of thing. Because I noticed a lot of that going on among those, like, 8, 10 stations, whatever it was.
Yeah, there were a lot of notes being taken in there.
I mean, it's probably like a really good source of rapid feedback. Okay, what about Gris or Gris or I assume
that
it's
right the first
Gris.
time.
I assume it's Gris.
Gris was a really, really beautiful looking puzzle platformer published by Devolver. So Devolver can publish games that are not just complete jokes.
Can they though?
Yes. They published The Messenger, which is also out like this week. Was that show?
Yeah, it looked gorgeous. And like, apparently is a game about overcoming loss. There's a lot of visual storytelling going on in it. But really, I'm getting that game for the aesthetic. It's one of those things where it almost looks like the way they do it, as you are moving, like you have this sort of ill-defined aura of like as you come towards things get drawn in, so you don't necessarily see the platforms until you get close to them. But like the way they are drawn into the world is very pretty and artistic.
This was definitely a show for, do you like 2D platformers of various flavors?
I do. I really do.
As it turns out, I feel like that's kind of indie games in general.
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
There were fewer Metroidvanias this year.
Yeah, they were all. It was last year was all Metroidvanias, and now it was all puzzle platformers.
It's almost as if a lot of these people are at the same game jams.
Yes. I mean, super great if those are the games that you want a lot of. Like,
Yeah.
they are here for you.
Well, it's like a couple years ago at PAX South, there were a bunch of games that were sort of Smash Brothers.
Interesting to see which of those actually made it. Like Brawlhalla kind of made it. Rivals of Aether pretty much made it. Icons Combat Arena,
No, not so much.
Although, speaking of that particular genre, apparently Shovel Knight is both in Smash Brothers and in his own Smash Brothers.
Of course he is.
In that there's a new Shovel Knight like branded game, fully Shovel Knight, and it's just Smash Brothers with Shovel Knight characters.
Which is just going to be more DLC for Shovel Knight.
It was real weird.
Is it actual DLC, or is it like the other DLCs where they just kind of give it to you?
It's going to be like the other DLCs, where if you bought the game long enough ago, you're just going to get it.
That is the most delightful nonsense model I've ever seen. We're just going to keep making this game bigger and bigger.
Until everyone's bought Shovel Knight.
Yeah, and then they'll move on to the next thing. Hammer Knight. Okay, what is Dragon Marked for Death?
Dragon Marked for Death is what Inti Creates is doing now that they aren't making Mighty Number 9 anymore.
It's a 2D platformer.
It's a 2D platformer. This one is more, I was going to say, this really one felt Brawler-esque.
This one felt very different, though. This felt more Mega Man-y.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very Mega Man.
It's by Inti Creates. The last last several things they've done have been working for Capcom on Mega Man games, Mega Man-like games.
Are they trying to make it up to us for releasing Mighty Number 9?
Maybe. I mean, they're also working on Bloodstained. They also made Mighty Gunvolt. They also made the actual Mega Man 9.
Okay, see, that whole sequence of things that you just said tells me that they're not the problem with Mighty Number 9.
You know?
Because Gunvolt's really cool.
Gunvolt is cool.
Bloodstained, at least what I've played of it's been cool.
By Bloodstained, I mean Curse of the Moon, the one that already came out.
Yeah.
The Castlevania 3 throwback.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It's really cool.
So Dragon Mark for Death is their sort of Mega Man-like, but not really, action game coming out for the Switch later this year.
There's a interesting thing going on with it where different characters can traverse the stage in different methods.
Like, there's a big dude with an axe who, well, he fights things with the axe. And he's got a tackle you can use to take down obstacles. He's got a running move to attempt to, not be a ridiculously slow dude. Because baseline, he really, really is.
And then there's a girl with a giant dragon arm cannon. And she can't move the obstacles. The big bruiser can. But she has a grappling hook that allows her to do swings from certain points. So, like, she has to go through a completely different section of levels than he does.
There are 2 more characters that were not playable at the show. And more importantly, this game supports local and online co-op.
Yay.
Where it's sort of action RPG beat-em-up-esque. So not really like Mega Man.
But yet suddenly you have my attention.
But it was quite fun to play at the show. I'm really looking forward to it.
Okay, what about Spin Rhythm?
Man, it actually looked super cool. It's
Spin
totally...
Rhythm is a game that I do not own the hardware required to play.
Yeah,
but
totally...
it did look really cool.
It did look really cool.
Is it a VR game?
It is not a VR game. It's a rhythm game that looks sort of like, without context, it looks like Guitar Hero.
DJ Hero.
It's, pretty much DJ Hero. I know that game exists, but this is like another take on that, using the actual device you would need to,
Oh, wow, yeah, no. So very few people are going to have this.
Yeah.
So it's for a turntable. What's that? Rocksmith.
Rocksmith. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's super niche.
Yeah, it's
good look.
Playable with mouse and keyboard.
Okay.
And also when they come to consoles, motion controls.
It looked really fun and really cool. I just don't know who it's for.
It was fun to play. I have no idea who it's for either.
I mean, it's probably for that person that made that game.
Yeah.
Sure.
And he would probably really like everyone to play that game because it meant a lot to that person.
They were definitely
they were
definitely pretty excited about it. Australians. That was the other thing that I noticed a lot of at this show.
So a few years ago when Moonhunters was there because the Canadian government just decided, hey, let's spend some money on games.
Yeah, did Australia do the same thing?
Yep.
Although, the last PAX South I was at, there were several Aussies. Like, the one game that I freaking loved about, tending the children. I guess that was 2 PAXs ago, but whatever. That was Australian.
But yeah, there were a ton of Australia-developed games. It was really cool to see.
Star Renegades? Are they Renegades from the stars?
Maybe.
I did not look at this game as closely as Ash did, but what I saw of it looked really cool.
How much do you like FTL and or turn-based combat?
Not
Actually,
anywhere near.
You have to like both of those things somewhat significantly.
Not anywhere as much as I used to.
You have my attention.
This is a game where you have a party and you are trying to survive various things in a sort of attempt to keep your party alive, beat the bad guys, make it to the goal in a sort of roguelike setup. It looked really cool. It had a sort of Advance Wars-ish art style. Like a lot of indie games, pixel art is the way they went. That was definitely one of the games I did not get a chance to play with him paying very, very close attention to.
Cool. What about Soundfall?
This is an action game they invented basically entirely for me, so therefore I'm the only person here who's going to be interested in it. But
I'm curious because I don't even think I saw this game.
It was in the PAX Rising area, so not in the Indie Mega booth. This was a action game, like dungeon crawly, twin stick shootery, where you were very strongly encouraged to perform actions to the rhythm. Sort of like Crypt with Necrodancer, only slightly less punishing. Like if you fire not on the rhythm, you still fire. It's just bad.
Yeah,
also,
you lost me.
That sounds really fun.
Also, unlike Necrodancer, you don't need to move.
I am curious because I actually liked Necrodancer. Well, I liked it until level 3.
I thought Necrodancer was a really cool concept that I didn't actually want to play.
Necrodancer did eventually get hard enough that I lost interest in it, but we'll see how this one goes. This one I did not pay any attention to what it's coming out for, though. So who knows?
Okay, Summoner's Fate.
Summoner's Fate is a tactical RPG designed definitely with mobile in mind first, that sort of resembles Hero Academy to me.
Okay.
The thing is, you are a summoner. You have a deck of cards. You have your summoner unit is also on the board, and you need to either defeat all of the enemies or defeat the enemy summoner in order to make it past a given screen, so you can move on to the next screen, advance the campaign, so on and so forth. There is a strong deck building aspect. Sometimes you get cards. Your cards do various things. They can be comboed in various ways. The playable character was a druid, which helped. But their big thing was summoning animals. Tiny, like 1/1, 2/1 animals. And they had various abilities that supported this, like mutate this animal into a 7/7, or when this thing dies, it will blow up. So cast that on a squirrel, run your squirrel directly into the enemy, and watch the carnage.
That sounds kind of cool, because, like, I'm always looking for something interesting to play on my phone. I just don't usually stick with them terribly long.
I had a blast playing the demo of this. Your basic attack is cast a 1-point damage that creates a squirrel. It's also got a lot of so one of the things that you're gonna see at a higher level of it is it's got a lot of like sequencing is super important, because every attack you do provokes a counter attack unless A, you deal more damage than they had remaining health. Like, even if they have 3 health, you deal 3 damage, they get a dying counterattack. If they have 3 health and you deal 4 damage, they don't. Also, backstabs. But using
also
the fact...
combos.
Yes, also combos. Like, if you push somebody into somebody else's melee range, they'll immediately take an attack. So, like, setting up intricate combos or provoking counterattacks to change an opponent's facing is really important.
Okay, what about Indivisible?
Indivisible is a game I did not get to play at the show, but I have played in general because it was crowdfunded last year. Maybe 2 years ago now. Indivisible is, hey, what if Valkyrie Profile was a platformer? It is a...
Wasn't it?
Sort of. I guess that's fair.
I mean, I also
More
remember
of a platformer.
Fair enough. I remember it as the game where you leveled up your apples.
I don't remember that part.
You could, like, plant fruit and then level up the fruit. And the fruit, if you ate the fruit, you would level up your fruit eating. Something like that.
I really don't remember that part.
I might be remembering the wrong game.
Really, the only thing I remember about Valkyrie Profile is Nibelung Valesti. But this is a party-based RPG with a sort of 2D fighting style combat system.
Interesting.
Which sort of makes sense since this is the studio behind Skullgirls.
Ah, okay.
So it gives them a chance to show off their amazing 2D animation skills. And this was definitely, if you like hand-drawn 2D animation, this was another one of the major lookers of the show.
So, like Skullgirls, Cuphead, etc.
Yep.
Was this the one where you go into... Was this the, like, go into the cartoony... The, like, cartoon animation studio?
No, this was not that one.
I don't remember what that one was. You mentioned Cuphead, and it has an almost identical art style except monochrome.
That was a 3D game, believe it or not.
Is that
no,
Bendy and the Ink Machine?
Maybe? Yeah, Bendy, yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a 3D game.
I know it's a 3D
Amazingly.
game, it just had that art style.
Yes, it did.
That's a Xbox 360 exclusive, right?
I think so?
Bendy? I have no idea.
It is not on PlayStation. I just don't know if it's also on PC.
I have no idea.
Okay, Decoherence.
Starting to get into things that basically only I played.
Okay.
Decoherence is a semi-real-time strategy slash tactics. I don't even know how to describe this. You have a certain amount of power, and you can build some robots, and you're trying to attack their base, destroy their units, and you can give these robots commands before the round starts. So you're trying to figure out what robots to build, which ones are the best, how to command them so that they do the thing you want and not just, go cry in a corner. And then also you have your person who you can choose to ride around on a robot, or you can just walk around and shoot and try not to die. Really, you should ride around on a robot.
Hey, why wouldn't you ride around on a robot?
They intended it to have a sort of competitive aspect. If they had I don't know if they had a 2-player demo set up, but that one looked kind of cool. Like, that's in my maybe category.
Okay, Evergate.
Evergate was a game that Kodra should have seen, but I forgot to hand him the card for.
Aww.
Sorry. Evergate was yet another puzzle platformer. This one involved your very floaty jump, ghost-like character trying to regain their memories by making very precise skill shots while platforming and taking note of how those cause different reactions in your jump or your fall, or like if you shoot this particular kind of memory, it's going to make you fly back. Shoot this particular kind of memory, it's going to kill you unless you have a gate in between you and the thing you're shooting. It was a very weird game.
It sounds very weird.
Yeah, that does sound weird. Was it like quirky but good, or?
It was definitely interesting. And it is much more puzzle than platformer. Like, in style, somewhat close to Braid, I want to say.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask, because I think of Braid as more puzzle than platformer.
Yeah.
That's another one I'm keeping my eye on. Might pick up, might just give to Kodra. We'll see.
Okay, what about Party Golf / Party Crashers?
Ooh, boy.
These were fun. These were more Aussie games. These were Aussie student games.
I think Party Golf, however, is out already. Party Crashers is coming soon.
Party Crashers is very, very reminiscent of Mario Kart.
Party Crashers is
more reminiscent of like the old Micro Machines games.
Yeah. They're like the old Micro Machines games. It's like, hey, what if you played Mario Kart in 30 seconds? Like, what if rounds of Mario Kart were 30 seconds long? You play a super high speed, very floaty, physicsy racing game with bizarre vehicles, and the last person on the track wins, or the last person standing when time runs out. One of the two.
The reason I say it reminds me of the old Micro Machines games is if you fall too far behind, you're out. This time visibly represented by a red laser thing crossing the track.
Yeah, where you just explode.
But both of these games are super customizable. Party Golf is just about firing yourself in a direction at a certain power. And they have a lot of games, a lot of like mini games designed around what you can do with this concept.
Oh, that's kind of cool. So it's like more of a toy type setup than a... I mean, I don't know how to explain it, like, where it's more like, this is a concept we wanted to explore, and here's like all the different ways you can explore it.
Yeah. As a result, they made a pretty fun party game.
Yeah, they made for really good party games. It's the kind of game that you could pick up and play for like and pass a controller around, and it's funny for everyone watching. Like, we had a crowd watching us when we were playing.
The developers decided, we played 2 rounds of Party Crashers, and then during the second round, the developers decided to give me a handicap.
It didn't matter.
Yeah, it was totally irrelevant.
Because I kind of won the first round quite a bit.
You won the second round by more.
Yeah.
Details.
Handicapping Ashgar just made him stronger.
You've only made him mad.
I don't know, I thought it was hilarious.
It was really funny.
Okay, Children of Morta.
Ooh, this might be a Diablo-like game that I really get into.
Why is that?
I don't know, but like when I was playing with Ash, it was just maybe because it's pixel art, so the display is a lot less busy, I think. And I just generally felt like I knew what I was doing at all points in that while I was playing.
At this point, I have to ask, have you played any of the console versions of Diablo 3?
No.
You may want to give that a shot.
Especially when it comes to Switch. Okay, this one's one I want to know stuff about. Pathfinder Kingmaker.
I'm curious about this too.
I mean, it's Pathfinder Kingmaker. I didn't get a chance
I know
to play
nothing
it.
about this.
This is hey, Baldur's Gate remakes seem to be doing really well. What if we, made a new one.
Based on one of the most beloved adventure paths in recent memory.
Yeah, so basically it's the Kingmaker adventure path adapted into a video game.
What is being called CRPG, which makes me laugh a lot. But
why CRPG?
Computer.
Yeah. It's an old term that's being resurrected.
Very old term.
It's a very old term that's being resurrected to refer to this is an isometric turn-based-ish game.
It's basically the term that action RPG arose to differentiate from.
Yeah, but there was never a... Yeah, exactly.
But it does, they do have the entire thing where you are going to run a kingdom, and you're gonna be founding cities, and...
Yeah.
You're gonna be trying to make sure you maintain control over various area in the Gnarl Marshes.
I was curious about this one because I did not know about the Kingmaker Adventure Path, and they put up a big giant banner in the entryway.
Yeah, I was familiar with Kingmaker. I did not realize this was a CRPG. We'll see. I'm not, immediately thrilled.
I mean, for me, Baldur's Gate, but Kingmaker is that's a thing I'm interested in.
It's definitely there's definitely legs there if you are into that.
I'm really curious what they do with the first final boss, because that guy killed a whole bunch of players. This is probably one of those things where I'm going to want to try this just because I played through the Kingmaker adventure path and I want to see what they do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see if this has the same reaction as people did when Baldur's Gate came out. Baldur's Gate, also based on a beloved module. Nobody remembers the module.
I didn't even know there was one.
Yep. I would even have to go look up the name because it was a really cult classic module that they chose because it was a good choice. It was one of those ones that wasn't defined. It was ill-defined enough that they could build a whole game in the space, and they didn't want to step on the existing stuff because people were CRPGs will ruin tabletop at the time.
There was a lot of being afraid of the internet.
Yeah.
Wizards have not recovered.
Okay, this one I just have to know something about because of the title. Necrobarista.
Man,
we were at the show. I was at the show for 4 days, and I know basically nothing about that game. And that is on this list because I was at the show for 4 days and managed to learn nothing about this game.
Its website doesn't tell you anything.
It's got a trailer.
Is this Frog
that doesn't
Fractions?
tell you anything. No, that was Glitterman Grove.
Is this Frog Fractions 3?
That was also Glittermitten Grove.
I mean, I kind of get the impression that it's like Valhalla, but with dead people.
And being a barista.
Seems like
that's the Valhalla part.
Visual novel style thing, I guess, but
apparently that's a new genre now, is being a bartender / barista.
Oh yeah, I mean,
because this is the third game that I've seen where that's kind of like a thing.
There's this new thing, game concept that I'm actually totally here for, which is you have a honestly not terribly interesting job, but the world is interesting.
Like Battle Chef or whatever.
Yeah, like Battle Chef Brigade or Battle Chef Brigade is one. What's another good one?
I can't pronounce the name of it, but the one where you're an item shop person.
Oh yeah, Racketeer.
Yeah.
Racketeer. Because it sounds like racketeer.
Yeah, okay.
I mean,
that's
in that
intentional.
same genre, there's also Moonlighter now.
Moonlighter, yeah.
I mean, Papers, Please is another take on it. It's doing a different thing, but it's the same sort of concept as like you said, Headliner. But they're really interesting. It's interesting to see. Valhalla is another one. Red Strings Club. But yeah, there's a ton of these where it's you're a just regular person doing your regular job in this crazy world. And as a person who really likes world building, I'm into it.
In the same territory, another game on this list that makes no sense. What is Russian Subway Dogs?
It is exactly what it says.
I don't even.
So this is like
what's to
Tokyo
explain
Jungle,
there?
like Tokyo Jungle, but in the Russian subways. I'm
Not
here
really.
for this. Oh,
This is
Nah.
a game that is already out on Steam, and they're coming to other platforms soon-ish. What you call it? This is sort of arcadey, in which you are a dog and or cat just living in the Russian subway trying to scare people so that you can get their food, and also, try to avoid the guard dogs and not get blown up by exploding bottles of vodka. But if you cook the food with exploding bottles of vodka, it's worth more points.
of course it is. Well-known hazard in the Russian subway: exploding bottles of vodka.
Yep. This game was just fun. Apparently, there were actually dogs living in the Russian subway, and that's what this is based on.
And they had exploding vodka?
That's maybe invented for this game, but hey, whatever.
Okay. I'm kind of sad now. Like, I totally pictured, like, Russian dogs with Molotov cocktails.
No, I remember reading about this thing. Like, there were dogs that just lived in the countryside and rode the subway or the trains into town during the day and got food from people and then went back.
Mm-hmm.
Those are freaking great dogs.
Right?
Okay, I'm gonna push forward.
Oh, they're really cute dogs too. This looks adorable.
It sounds like
Go
a
ahead.
great idea for a video game. Element Space. Because, I partially want to get through this list just because I want to be able to say we got through all these games. Element Space. What is Element Space?
Element Space is trying to be XCOM.
Okay.
That's the short description. They want to be a more RPG-esque XCOM.
Okay. I'm mostly on board with this.
I don't even remember seeing that one. We're down in the deep cuts of games that I don't even remember seeing at the show.
This one was hard to see because it was next to Risk of Rain 2.
Oh, yeah, it's a bad place to be.
But yeah, I'm here for most of your tactical RPGs, so here we are.
Zombie Roller.
Zombie Rollerz is a pinball zombie RPG game.
Yes. Tell me
Grace is
more.
on board with this.
I am here for this.
You're basically playing pinball against an oncoming zombie horde.
I
And you
am
take
here for
damage if
this.
they attack your flippers. They can attack the ball and make it smaller and make it harder to hit. You have RPG-esque powers, so you can sometimes just turn the ball into a giant flaming fireball of death, or drink a healing potion, or just throw nonsense at the incoming zombie horde. This was one of the games that was in the indie mini booth for the Saturday and Sunday crowd, and it was quite fun.
Oh yeah, that was an interesting thing going on with the show, was that there were so many smaller indie games that they had 2 sets of them.
I just want to know, is this something that might actually replace Justice Monsters 5 in my brain share?
Maybe.
Sounds like it.
Seems like it could. I don't know if it's going to come out for mobile platforms. I don't see why it wouldn't. It seems like it could, but I don't know if they will. I don't know if it will.
Yeah, that was exactly where my brain went, Grace. Okay, Dusk Arena of Shadows.
Dusk Arena of Shadows was a board game, and one of those things that they had 3D printed demo pieces. They intend to combine hexes, deck building, and minis games. So I was there for it.
Okay.
They have it set up as a 1v1, but you can play it as more than that if desired.
Okay, we're getting close to the end. Gizmos.
Gizmos is another board game that was very new, apparently. You're selecting marbles from you've got a bunch of different gizmos that you build. Gizmos, for the most part, say when you do X, perform Y action. And each turn you have the option of you have a couple of basic options. The idea is if I have a gizmo that says when I archive a card, I get to pick a marble. Marble is energy. I also have a card that says when I pick a blue marble, I get to pick another random marble from the pile. So if I archive a card, my archive card lets me pick a marble. I pick the blue marble, and then I get another marble. You're building all of these different gizmos to try and get as long of chain reactions as you possibly can.
Okay, that sounds kind of cool. Okay, last one on the list. Felix the Reaper.
So this is a you are a Grim Reaper, and the story is apparently a romantic comedy. I didn't really get into the story, but the idea is that you are trying to move around in the shadows, moving these elements that have been frozen in time such that various things happen. Like, maybe you need to make sure that somebody dies in this scene, and it's your job to put things right so that person dies. Maybe you're just trying to get some people some beer. It's a tile-based puzzler where you are able to rotate the sun around, and so you're using that to rotate yourself in and out of shadows along your paths to various goals.
Okay. I admit, towards the end, it reminds me of those shows where people make up nonsensical bands. Because that was a lot of titles in a row. But by God, we made it through that list. Like, I didn't think we were going to make it through that list, but we made it through that list.
Indie games.
Indie games. We mentioned 2 AAA games this entire show, Artifact and Starlink.
2017 was a really good year for video games, guys.
It was. And it's noticeable, like, at E3, there was a lot of interesting stuff, but it was a lot of sequels, and it was a lot of stuff not coming out until 2019. or beyond. Maybe they should have held back some games for 2018.
I mean, Monster Hunter came out in January.
It was amazing.
It's worth noting that there were a bunch of AAA games that we didn't really bother with.
Yep. I did get to play Assassin's Creed, but that demo did not have inverted camera look, so I hated every single minute of it. It might be okay, but that experience was not fun.
And Spider-Man was there too, right?
It was not there.
No? I thought it was on the big...
Spider-Man... Yeah, there was the big Sony booth.
Yeah, there was the huge Sony booth, and everybody was playing Spider-Man.
Which was already out at that point.
Spider-Man just came out this past Friday.
Yeah,
so.
it just came
okay.
out.
It was a week from being out.
Like, the reviewers had it at that point.
That was a... that booth, you had to wait in line to get into the gift shop.
I mean, I'm not surprised. The only reason that I'm not playing Spider-Man immediately after we finish recording is that I need to finish Dragon Quest XI before I start Spider-Man.
I mean, I will say, like, based on my experiences with PAX South, like, probably the funnest times for me is going and playing the indie games, especially the ones with the folks who built it there, who are super excited to show it off.
I will say one of the interesting things from this show was what Bethesda did.
What did Bethesda do?
Bethesda didn't show up.
Did not have a booth on the floor.
Instead, what Bethesda did was rent out the Hard Rock Cafe.
Interesting.
And, like, you could go and, like, they would give you drinks and food, and you could sit around and talk to a whole bunch of people and play games, and yeah, all of their stuff was there, but they weren't really showing much.
Fallout 76 wasn't there.
Fallout 76 wasn't there, and that's probably the thing.
Therefore, you could play all the stuff that they have out currently, except for ESO, in which you could preview the next DLC.
For Fallout 76, I've already decided I am renting a server. I'm just friggin' renting a server, and I'm gonna make a PvE Wonderland, and people can come play with me there.
In that case, I might actually get the game.
Right? Me too.
Because the thing is like, I assume someone like Typefrag will offer servers and will rent a server for as long as we're interested, and we'll play the hell out of it with us and a handful of people that also don't want to screw with PvP. And it'll be great. Like, I think that game will be really fun under those circumstances, but I don't want to play with the general population.
Hell no.
I might have a number of recommendations for you of people who would probably also want to play under those circumstances.
Yeah, like I have a feeling that we will have a wonderful, thriving community with interesting housing, and it'll be great. It'll be great.
So, as an aside on the Bethesda thing, like, I wound up spending almost as much time hanging out there as I did at the show itself. I mean, mostly because I was hanging out with former coworkers, but also it was just really chill. Like, it had a line, like an insane line. When we got there, so they didn't really advertise the Friday a whole ton. So when we got there, like especially before work was out for most people, like it wasn't super crowded. We still waited for a solid like 20 or 30 minutes to get in. When I went there on Saturday, apparently word had gotten out, and the line to get in was it went all the way down the alley that we were standing in, around the nearby buildings for 2 blocks.
Wow.
And looped around such that the end of the line was visible from where we were waiting.
To get into the Bethesda area.
To get into the Hard Rock Cafe where Bethesda had set up shop. And they had a ton of, they had drinks, they had food, they had 2 floors, they had something like 30 game stations set up. You could hang out and play. If you were waiting inside, you could wait inside with a drink and some food and sit down and play. And it was chill, it was relaxed. Everybody I talked to there said it was way better than running a booth.
So where was Bungie set up at?
Right near the PlayStation. They were, Bungie was showing off Forsaken.
Gambit.
Yeah, Bungie was showing off that, but it had some technical difficulties. So, as far as I could tell, I know they tried to do a streaming thing, or I heard they were trying to do a streaming thing, and it maybe didn't work out super hot.
Yeah, someone grabbed me one of their little codes for the Gambit emblem. I guess if you had played through it there, they were giving you an in-game emblem.
That's cool. Yeah, I didn't really stop by the Destiny booth.
Sounds like it was a interesting show, at least. Like, I guess that's the thing with PAX is like, I've done something different every time I've gone to a PAX.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I like about it is, so like, this one did not have a whole ton of games that I was necessarily super interested in. And so I did other stuff. And last year, it was like 100% games that I was super interested in. And I spent a bunch of time watching and looking. And I know that like Kodra went and did other stuff for most of last year. And I kind of liked that. We could go, like I went back and checked out the Total War, the Creative Assembly booth, because I'm super interested in the next Total War game. They're doing a romance.
It's going to be cool.
They're doing a Romance of the Three Kingdoms Total War game, and I'm absolutely here for it because like
that sounds pretty cool.
So as much as I like Total Warhammer, and I do because giant battles and magic are fun, my favorite part of those games is their like interesting historic commentary throughout. Like Shogun, you learn all kinds of things about feudal Japanese culture, and I'm interested in seeing them give Three Kingdoms the same treatment.
Okay, we probably need to wrap things up, but Kodra, were you able to find any interesting LARPs?
No, that's not what you would do at a PAX, really.
Okay. Any other final parting thoughts before we close this up?
I took second place in a Terraforming Mars tournament, though, so that was one of the things I did.
That's cool.
Also, I went to the Loading Ready Run panel, and I am looking forward to Road Quest.
Road Quest?
The Loading Ready Run crew is doing their take on Top Gear.
Oh, speaking of online shows, the shows in effect here were definitely D&D, people playing D&D and streaming it. There were at least 3 events where different groups were streaming their D&D game from PAX. And I guess, like, stuff, like, drama, like, story drama stuff happened that people are still talking about.
I mean, like, I think that's really cool, but I also don't largely get that, like why you would watch it. I know, like, a lot of people that are into Critical Role and a lot of people that are into the C Team for Acquisitions Incorporated, or what is it, Acquisitions Incorporated?
Yep.
Okay. But, like, I also don't get what's enjoyable about it, because it's kind of like watching, esports. It just makes me want to just play that game.
It's a reality show. I sat and watched one.
It is.
While we were there, and that's totally what's going on. It's a reality show. It's a reality show for nerds.
Okay.
It's like how
And-
pro wrestling is soap operas for nerds.
Yeah, and like watching it because it flits between like the characters and the game, and yeah, it's totally that.
I mean, like I've watched some of it or tried to watch some of it, and it just didn't do anything for me. In the same, like, to me, it's whatever is broken in my brain that keeps me from enjoying esports is also broken for watching somebody else play D&D. And largely, like, watching streamers is the same unless it's a streamer I know.
Yeah.
So, like, I watch some of, like, there's a person I know that has a group that streams their game. I watched some of that, and that was cool because, like, it's a person I know. Like, it's a person I interact with. But, yeah.
I've started watching some. I'm enjoying it so far.
Cool. I think the closest I'm going to come to esports is Method is going to stream their attempt at World First for the new raid when Mythic opens this week, and I think that might be entertaining.
Yeah, like I'm interested in that. Like the competition aspect of esports doesn't do anything for me any more than real sports does, but like just watching sort of the pros take on those PvE challenges, that's worth watching to me.
You might where I really enjoy that is watching speedrunners.
I really like what Awesome Games Done Quick or whatever.
Yep.
Like,
I think it's
I
cool.
like some of that. It depends on like how much of the time they're, you know, using weird bugs to do their speedruns versus
Yeah.
like, you know, the bug-free versions. Like that's what the difference between it being interesting and super boring to me.
I think for me, it's like the stories that they're explaining why they're doing this thing. I find that interesting, but we've gone off course. Any final thoughts? Okay,
I want my replacement for Justice Monsters 5.
somebody make that.
I'm ready to be a goose.
Russian subway dogs looks even more insane than you described.
Because
You left out the bears
I didn't get far enough in the demo to get bears.
I
and
mean,
elk.
There's got to be bears. It is Russia.
I mean, it's Russia. There's bears everywhere.
So yes, there are subway bears. Is that based on real life? No.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this show, and we will see you again next week for a more normal show. Good night.
Good night.
Good.
Laters.
Good night.
See ya.